Hi all, I wish to look at now round 10 of the famous New York 1963 tournament in which Fischer had a clean sweep of 11 wins in a row. This was round 10 against Fischer's friend pal Benko. Benko had beaten him 3 times apparently, so he's a very good strong grandmaster. But on the day of this game, apparently, reading the Jeremy Silman website, and if you look up Benko and necking in their search engine, you'll see a story from the biography of Benko, and he claims to have been basically with his latest girlfriend the night before, the whole of the night before, so he was quite exhausted for this game. So he was facing Fischer, who had just won 9 games in a row. And we see here the pseudo-Austrian attack opening. So this is a variation which started from the modern defence. And after knight f3, this is now the Austrian attack proper. So bishop d3. Now Benko plays what is probably quite a dubious move, willingly giving up the 2 bishops for some pressure on d4. But the thing is, this pressure on d4 was easily parried. A lot of games in the chessworld.net master collection feature knight a6 with the idea perhaps of c5 later, and I think that's been recommended by John Nunn, who's an expert in the modern defence. So anyway, bishop g4, so Fischer just grabbed the 2 bishops here. The only slight concern is this potential weakening of d4, which Benko kind of stereotypically lashes out on by playing knight c6, so pressurising this central square. Fischer just protects it, and now Benko increases the pressure, but he does so in a sort of damaging way, because Fischer now just took d takes e, and after d takes e played f5, so he's got now an aggressive wedge against black's king, and he might also be threatening just castles queenside, and later g4 and g5, imprisoning the bishop, say knight h5, f6. So there's already these kind of dangerous threats, which maybe Benko was extremely panicky about. So he didn't want these pawns to be so rolling his king position. Maybe this explains his next move, which is slightly dodgy. He played g takes f5, and Fischer took with the queen. So maybe he considered taking the pawn. Let's have a quick look taking with the pawn. Maybe black can get some counterplay here with knight d4. Knight d4, queen f2, maybe c5 here. And it's not so bad for black. At least this bishop's sort of blocked in by its own pawn. White wanted to keep anyway that pawn on e4. So we'll see now, after knight d4 he plays queen f2, which is perfectly playable because there's no knight g4s because of that earlier h3. And now Benko, he plays controversially again, he plays knight e8. Notice with this knight e8 he's weakened this h5 square, and this is the start of a very aggressive plan by Fischer. Perhaps he could have considered castling queenside, but he didn't need to. He castling kingside's good here, and made even better with knight d6. So this knight can't even get back to this h5 square very easily now. It will take 2 steps. Now I want to show why this is important. Here Fischer played a very kind of, it looks like a direct move, but it's actually manoeuvring the queen to h5. He played queen g3. So he's actually following this manoeuvre to get to h5, from where this h7 pawn will be indirectly attacked. And once that occurs, he just needs to coordinate his queen and this bishop on d3 to that h7 for a vicious attack, which is what occurred in this game. But black took the opportunity to try and get some counterplay on the g file by playing king h8 to leave a space for the rook to come to g8. Now Fischer followed his plan though, queen g4. Perhaps black could have considered f5 here. Or is that too dodgy? Let's have a quick look. f5. Actually, it might be too late here. Maybe just e takes f5. It seems to be clearly better according to Ribka. Say rook g8. There's no compensation here. If knight takes f5 there, bishop takes f5, knight takes f5, white's just winning a piece. The f5 could have, though, been played immediately after queen g3. Perhaps instead of king h8, maybe f5 now, And let's see what GM Ribka has to say about this. E takes F. That knight takes on F5. Queen F2. It believes white's slightly better, but it might not be as bad as the game continuation. The game continuation was an utter disaster, actually, for Benko. So maybe he was really tired, as he claims, from the night before. After C6, so he let Fischer just get this great queen on H5. And after Queen E8, Fischer coordinates this bishop and queen with a beautiful idea now, and also forcefully interfering with black's defence. First he takes on D4, and now he plays a brilliant move which kind of leaves the black king defenceless. I'll give you 5 seconds to see if you can spot this beautiful move. I'll give you a tactical clue though. It's interference, and in a way a forceful self-blockade of the opponent's defences. So 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fischer played beautiful rook F6. So he's offering a whole rook, because if bishop takes F6, then E5, and how does black defend this H7 pawn? There's no defence, there's no F5. Fischer's forcefully blocked that F7 pawn, or forced Benko to block his own F pawn with that rook sacrifice. Absolutely no defence there. So this is beautiful. Rook F6. Benko played King G8. And now Fischer played E5. Only move now for Benko to stop the mate. H6. And now Fischer played simply Knight E2. So that the knight is threatened, but it can't move. If the knight moves, say to C8, then Queen F5, and it's a forced mate next move on H7. Because the king's also trapped in by its rook. So this was an utter disaster after Knight E2. The knight can't move and is being lost next move. Let's see, also there's a threat of rook takes D6. If bishop takes F6, then queen takes H6, and it's a forced mate in 2 now. So say knight F5, bishop takes F5, it's just mate next move. So it was utterly hopeless after that. Let's have a look in conclusion and summary at this game. So E4, and Benko played the modern defence, and after D4, bishop G7, knight C3, D6, Fischer played the pseudo Austrian attack. This is already quite interesting. Sometimes the bishop can come out to G5 before that pawn moves, but here the bishop's useful actually in being able to come to E3 to defend this D4 square later. So that's quite a useful move order, leaving the bishop at home on C1. And I think modern GMs would prefer knight A6 here with a counter strike in the centre with C5. The way Benko played it, he gave up the 2 bishops for pressure on the D4 square, which was already convenient to protect with this bishop at home rather than say on G5. So it was no problem for Fischer. He didn't mind this pawn wedge with F5. And after this, in fact, structurally, black's got damage here with this isolated pawn, and pressure on the semi-open file is horrible dynamic pressure to deal with. Queen F2 was very elegant, and H3 is conveniently stopping the knight G4. So after knight E8, Fischer even just castled kingside. He didn't need to castle queenside or anything more exotic. So Benko made his situation for defence much worse now with this knight D6. So this H5 was well and truly a great square for the white queen. So the white queen can't reroute there via E2 because of that knight on D4. So the clever move Queen G3 first. By the way, it might also have been just threatening bishop H6. Say black just played C5, then in this position bishop H6, clear advantage perhaps. Knight E8, and here perhaps knight D5, according to Ribka. King H8, bishop takes, knight takes, queen takes E5, massive advantage to white. So there's a lot of pressure, not just potentially on the G7 square, but also on this E5 square from this queen. So this queen is quite lovely placed on G3. Anyway, but he wasn't content with that. He moved to G4 to head for that H5 square. And then we see this beautiful, forceful blockade of black's own defences. So the king's virtually getting trapped. And after e5, black plays the only move to stave off mate, but after knight e2, black is forcibly losing material. For example, queen e7, which, okay, ed, queen takes f6, but just either rook takes d6 here, and white's piece up. Black hasn't got much compensation. Or even just rook af1, and if this knight ever moves, then queen f5. So that was quite a crushing game by Fischer, making it 10 games in a row. So he only had one game left in the tournament for his 11-0 clean sweep. I hope you enjoyed that game, and see you on YouTube. Thanks very much.